Okay, now that I have your attention, I just wanted to use this little teaching technique to drive home the point. You're going to get a lot of step-by-step instructions this semester. None of them are actually going to help you get further down. In fact, they'll confuse you. What I found in all the semesters I've taught this class is that students who go down the step-by-step instructions one by one, reading every little word and then looking at the screen and trying to figure it out and recognizing that screenshots have changed, software has evolved, they just get more confused than anything else. I really want you to step away from the step-by-step instructions, look at what you're supposed to be accomplishing, and then look at what's available on the screen, figure it out. Ask questions in this discussion board, send me a text, talk to your group, figure it out. You will learn how to use your computer better if you don't follow step-by-step instructions. If you have to start learning how things work and where things are on the screen, and don't let a piece of paper tell you what to do, because then you just don't learn it. So my goal is to help you learn this stuff, not just follow directions. We're in a college class. We don't need step-by-step instructions. We have the ability to reason and to infer and induce and deduce, and we should use all those skills and cause learning to happen. So there, I'm off my soapbox now. My objective for the next little bit is to demonstrate the work that you'll be doing as a team, and by extension, the work you'll be doing as individuals this week for your assignments. There is a quiz this week. It's based on the reading. I recommend that you prepare for the quiz by taking it once without any preparation, and then use that to go look through the readings and find the answers that you need to brush up on. There is a lot of reading this week, and I recommend that you don't waste time reading things that you already know and understand. Look for the things that you don't already know and understand, and try to figure those things out and really start using that right side of your brain, not the left side. The left side wants to follow step by step. The right side wants to work its own way and find its own way in life. And the two of those working together are the best learning combination I've ever seen in my life. So, all right, enough said. Let's get on to creating a repository in GitHub. So I've already downloaded NetBeans, and by the way, I'm doing this all in one take. You're going to get my flubs and my bloopers. If I make mistakes, you're seeing them real time, and I do that because number one, who has time to record 50 different takes for a class video? There's a lot going on today, and I just got to get it done, right? The second is I'm not perfect, and this is the way I work every day. So if you have to make mistakes and find errors, good grief, I do every day. So don't worry about that. So I was going to tell you, I've already downloaded NetBeans. I have a JDK installed. If you have not yet done this, then I recommend you go to java.oracle.com, and there's the top downloads. You want to go to the NetBeans IDE. Yes, we are all going to be using NetBeans this semester. If you have a different favorite IDE or environment, feel free to use that for any other purpose, but the work that you do for this class, especially with your teammates and what you need to be submitting to me every week, should be done in NetBeans. I will also be completely honest and say that NetBeans is one of my least favorite environments to work in, but because the examples in the class are given in NetBeans, and it's a uniform environment that makes sure that makes it so that I don't have to figure out your project system every time you submit something. We're just all going to use the same tool, and it's NetBeans, to keep it consistent with the class materials. But ignore all of this stuff on the screen. We're going to come down to this link, get the JDK with NetBeans. The reason is NetBeans 8 or 8.2 is the stable production release of NetBeans. It only works with Java 8. So if you've downloaded Java 9 or Java 10 with NetBeans and you're having trouble getting NetBeans to work, you will either need to uninstall Java 9 or 10 and reinstall Java 8, or get this bundle with NetBeans and Java 8. Or if you want to stick with Java 9 or 10, you can go get a nightly build of NetBeans that are more of the bleeding edge stuff, but you pick up their bugs that they haven't worked out yet. So just be aware of that. So when we're down here on the download page, we're going to accept the license, and that enables these links. Just pick the link that you want to download. If you're on Windows, you'll want the x64 probably, Mac, Linux. If you don't know the difference between x86 and x64, It just depends, really. I'll give you the tip. If your computer is less than 5 years old, you probably want the x64. If it's more than 5 years old, you're probably incredibly frustrated with it anyway, and you might want the x86 version. But if you know what the difference is, then you know which one you need to get. So I've already downloaded. I got the Mac OS version, and we're ready to go. So the next thing we need to do based on the instructions is we need to go create a repository in GitHub. Now, one of you on your team is the one who needs to do this. Whoever does it is fine, but one of you does it, and then the others on the team will clone the repository once it's all set up. But we're going to go to GitHub, and I've already logged in. We're going to go to New Repository, and I'm going to call my repository the City of Aaron. And I'll say class project CIT 260 spring 2018. We'll just abbreviate that. BYU-Idaho. It's a public repository, meaning anyone in the world can see it. If you make it private, then GitHub wants to charge you a little bit of money because they're all about open source. They reward anyone who's open. They charge people who don't want to be open. So pick the public. It's fine. I'm going to add a git ignore. I know I'm going to be developing a Java project, so the git ignore actually will help Git only track files that are important to us, and there's going to be a lot of working files like the .class files. We don't need to check those into version control because they change every time we rebuild our software, and what matters is the source code, not the compiled code. So I'm going to pick the Java template here. I'm going to add a license too, just because, to show you how that works. The MIT license is a very free and open license, kind of cool. And then I'm going to hit create repository. So it creates this repository, and you can see here it created a git ignore file for us and a license. If we click on these, we can look at them. So that's all of the MIT license right there. One of the reasons I like it. And git ignore, you'll see in here there's a bunch of file patterns that tell Git, when you see these in my project directory, ignore them. Don't try to track them in your version control. So we'll come back to City of Aaron. So I've now created my repository. That's all I had to do here. One thing that you'll want to do is you'll want to add collaborators. And I'm shooting from memory here. So go to settings, go to collaborators, and your team members will need to have GitHub accounts, and when they do, you can enter in their email address or their GitHub user ID, and you can add them as a collaborator. That way they can check in and modify code. So one of you on the team is going to be the owner of the repository. The other two are going to be collaborators. When we get to the end of the semester, you can do what's called a fork, and you can each take out your own copy of the repository that you'll own, and then when the class ends, you can take off and do your own thing with your own source code and not worry about what others have done to it. So that's how you'll add the collaborators. And then we're ready to go. So let's actually load up NetBeans now, and we're going to clone our repository. What cloning a repository does is it takes the repository from the GitHub server and it copies the whole thing down to your hard drive. So you actually have a whole copy of everything in the repository. And you can work on it in your own computer. You can be online or you can be disconnected from the network. You can do everything you need to do. And then when you're ready to share your code with your team members, you will connect back to the network if you're not. And then you'll push your changes up to the server, and it'll take your code and merge it up into what's in the server, and then it's available for your team members and anyone else who sees your repository to go get. We'll see that in a few minutes. So I'm going to minimize this, and I'm going to load up NetBeans. Just when you need it to go fast, it refuses to do so. So let me clean something out of here. I did do one trial run to make sure I knew the steps, so you weren't fumbling or watching me fumble around looking for steps. We're going to clean this out. So I've got NetBeans now, and it's waiting for us to start a project. But we've already got a repository started. We're going to download our repository or clone it from GitHub to our hard drive, and then we're going to let NetBeans create a project in the repository. Now remember, only one of you has to do this step on your team. The others, once all these steps are done that I'm showing you, will be able to connect to the repository and clone their own copy with all the stuff that we've done in this session. We're going to go to Team. We go to Git. Mercurial and Subversion are other version control systems. We're using Git. That's the most popular in the world right now, so that's the one we're going to go with. We're going to clone the repository that we created on GitHub. So we clone this repository, and just so you know, it was already pasted into mine. When you want to get the URL, because you have to give the cloning software the URL. So I'm going to go back to the front page. I do that by clicking on my repository name here. I'm going to come over to the clone or download button, and I'm going to pick the HTTPS version because I think that's the one that works the best with GitHub and between GitHub and NetBeans. If you know about SSH, you can use SSH. It avoids you having to type your password in every time. But I'm going to copy this to my clipboard. That's what this little button does. I'll minimize that, and we'll come back here. And I'm going to paste this in here. Paste it in. I'm going to enter in my user ID and my password for GitHub. I've clicked the box that says save it, so I don't have to remember that. I don't have to be prompted for my password every time. I'm going to choose, I want to clone it into I have a directory on my hard drive called users K Anderson project CIT 260, and since I named my project or my repository City of Erin, it's going to put it in a City of Erin directory. If I hit next, it's going to try to connect, and it's going to read the different branches. We're not going to work with branches in our class this semester, so the master branch is the only one we'll ever see and work with, but just so you know, you could have other branches that you're working in. We use that all the time at my day job, where we've got 4 of us or 5 of us on the team, and we're all working on different parts of our software, so we work in different branches so we don't trip each other up. And then when we're ready to merge together, we merge our software, our branches into our master branch. I'm just going to hit next here, and it says here we're going to clone into the City of Erin, the master branch, and the remote is always, in Git, it's always called origin. Origin is where this project came from, this repository came from. So the repository up on GitHub is my origin. I'm gonna leave this scan for NetBeans projects after clone. If you're the first one creating the stuff, you're not going to get any projects out of this. But if you're one of the team members who was waiting for the team member to build the repository and push it up for you, when you download, the other team member will have already created the project, and so you want NetBeans to scan for it and just automatically add it to your project window over here. So we're going to finish. Do I want to create an IDE project from the cloned sources? I'm going to go ahead and say no here, and not because I don't want you to do it, but in case you get lost, this is just going to be a shortcut for what I'm about to show you. So I'm going to close here. I'm going to go to my Projects tab. And I'm going to right click, or you can go up to File, New. You say File, New Project. I tend to right click more than anything else. I'm going to say New Project. I want a Java project. I want a Java application type. I'm going to go to Next. I'm going to give it a name. It's going to be called City of Erin. It's going to be put into my, you see here my directory, this is my repository, and yes, I'm going to have 2 folders here, one City of Erin, and then this is my repository, and this is going to be actually my game project. I'm going to create a couple of extra folders in my repository that aren't part of our game project that you'll see in just a second. And then I'm going to get rid of the package name in front of City of Erin, because to me that's an annoyance. You're welcome to have a package name, but if you want to run this from the command line, that package name can be kind of a pain. So we're just going to have our main class will be called City of Erin, and then I'm going to hit finish. And it's going to go out and it's going to create a project from a template. Unbelievable how much time this is taking this morning, but there you go. Okay, so it's created the default main class. Remember main from our first week here. You'll notice that there's a to-do here. Anytime NetBeans creates code for you, you need to look for a to-do, because that to-do tag or that to-do comment is going to tell you what you need to replace that line with. So I need to get rid of this comment line, and we're going to put some application logic here to begin with. But let me also give you a quick tour here of our project. So there's source packages, and there's the default package, and in there you'll see our cityofaaron.java. There's some libraries here. You can see I'm using JDK9. I'm actually using a nightly build. You'll have a JDK8 here if you've downloaded the bundle. Don't have to worry about anything in here just yet. So I'm creating my city of Aaron, and at this point I could compile my program. It wouldn't do anything because I haven't told it to do anything yet. I could actually put a system.out.println here. Traditional hello world. And then I can come up here and hit the run button. This is a run button. This is a debug button. These will become very handy for you. I can hit the run button and it'll actually compile my program and run it down here in the bottom pane. And you can see here it printed out hello world. So how fun was that? All right, we're going to erase that for now. I told you I was going to come in here. I was going to create a couple of extra folders. So over here in my favorites, this is a directory browser. And it goes to my home directory. So I'm going to go to Projects, CIT 260, City of Aaron. And I'm going to add to my favorites right here so I don't have to navigate to it every time. So you can see here City of Aaron. And now I actually want, and this is just, I could very easily be doing this using my Finder folder, my Finder window, or the Windows File Explorer, either way. I'm just doing it inside of NetBeans. I'm going to say I want a new folder, and I'm going to create a folder called Requirements. And I'm also going to create a second folder called Design. I'll pause for just a second, give you a chance to think what might go in these folders. Well, let's go see. I've downloaded from, let's see, downloads directory. Downloaded from our iLearn site, the City of Aaron requirements. Haven't tried dragging and dropping here. I hope it would work. I'm going to put this into requirements here. And darn, it didn't work. All right, so watch this. There's more than one way to skin this cat. Go to Projects, CIT 260, City of Aaron, Requirements. We're going to drop our requirements in here. Now this is actually going to put them in our repository, so they're going to be saved with our source code. And then I'm going to go to my Design folder, and we're going to go and we're going to take our cityofaaron.xml and drop it in here. I'm also going to take the PDF, the SVG, and the PNG here. We're actually going to add these to a gitignore in this directory because I'd only want the XML file to be controlled. These are just the outputs. I happen to use the draw.io website app for drawing my UML diagram. I wanted to try that out and make sure that it worked right. It worked great. And so but that uses this XML file, and it exports my SVG. It exports in a lot of different formats. I did one in SVG. If you want to see this real quick, open it up in Safari. So I get my object model here. We're going to come back to this in just a minute. And of course, PNG and PDF, same document, same picture, just different format on my disk. So now you can see here that I've got these in the requirements, and in my design I've got PDF, PNG, SVG, and XML. So really quick, I want to go grab that .gitignore, and I wonder if I can do this from in here. Let's go into my design, new, other, empty file. Next, we're going to call it .gitignore, and it's going to go into our design directory. And in my .gitignore, I'm going to say I want to ignore. How come I can't edit this? Come on. Let's try this. Seriously? I told you I was doing this on one take, right? Oh, is all of my editing broken now? Let's do this. We'll stop NetBeans, and we'll start it back up. Alright, so I'm back here in my city of Aaron. Go to my design folder. I choose my gitignore file. I open it up, and now I can type. Crazy. Again, I'm on a nightly build, so some of this is to be expected because I'm taking my life into my own hands here. But I don't want to save my PDF file, so I'm going to say star.pdf, star.png, star.svg. Oops. Looks like I got a spell checker on, so that's what that underline is. Not going to worry about that. So now what I've told is Git knows to look for a .gitignore file, and the dot in front of it is important, so .gitignore. And I'm saying ignore all PDFs, all PNGs, all SVGs. So it won't actually try to check these files into my Git repository. Okay, so now that I've got my Git stuff ready to go, and in my requirements, I've got my requirements, I can actually, can I do Git from here? I can do Git from here. This is nice. So I go to Git, and I want to commit my changes. So when I commit my changes in Git, I'm actually checking them into my own local copy. They don't make it up to the server until I push my changes. I'll show you that in just a second. So I'm going to commit, and it's always good to come up to the top directory of what you're working in, so that because the way it works in NetBeans is it looks in wherever you click. If I were to click here, then I would only be committing my design directory. But I want NetBeans to find all my changed files in the whole project and use those for my commit. So here comes my commit. We're going to say our cancel that. All right, stop it. This is a pain. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Okay, you're getting the real raw treatment here. So CD projects CIT 260 City of Aaron. I'm going to go into my favorite editor, Visual Studio Code, because it also has a Git client in it. I just want to make a commit here. But actually, you know what I'm going to do? I think it's just freaking out because I'm typing in something that it didn't expect to be typing in. So I'm going to create a new file here and just type in my comment. Initial project structure. Grab that, and we're going to paste it into our commit window. Probably get one more error as we do. No errors, great. And then I'm going to check, I'm going to make sure that all the files that I want in here are checked. So you can see here, that it didn't actually pick up the PDF, PNG, or SVG, which is what I told the getIgnore to ignore. And there's one other thing I want to check before I commit this, and that's my main getIgnore. Now I'm on a Mac, and so Mac leaves a bunch of little files. I call them Mac turds. There's a .ds store directory that ends up everywhere. Every time you open a folder in the Finder, it leaves a .ds store there, and it just remembers what your settings were for that folder, whether you're in list view or icon view, if you're sorted or not, etc. But we don't need to track that in our project, so we're going to ignore the .ds store stuff. That'll make sure nothing gets up there into our repository that's just related to my computer and my computer only. Okay, save that. Now we'll come back to Git, commit, and this time I promise I'm going to do it. So you can see here I've got all the files checked that I want to put up into my repository, and we're going to commit. And we'll see here we've got this message. Git has committed. It gives me this revision ID. This is your commit ID. I'm going to require that you submit your commit ID for your projects each week when you submit your assignments. This will help me go right to the commit that we're grading, and that'll let you keep working and not waiting on me to grade your stuff before you start adding more code to your project. So just remember, when you commit, you'll get this commit ID, and you're actually going to get it. You can find it again up in GitHub, and I'll show you how. So I have now committed. So let me show you what this means. I can come in here to one of my source projects. We'll go back to my project view, go to my city of Erin. I can actually make a change now and say we're going to do our system.out.println. Okay, this is fortuitous. I've got a typo. So cannot find symbol, and the symbol is println string location variable out of type print stream. So here's how you read this, okay? And we've got a discussion board up in the water cooler that we're going to have these common error messages and what to do about them. So we'll add this later on this week, but just wanted you to see this. Cannot find symbol. All NetBeans is telling you is, I don't know what println is. It's not defined anywhere. It's not a method that's defined on the out object in the system class. And so what are the possible reasons? Well, it could be that there's definitely no println method. It's probably a typo, and if I type println, then of course I get it. Now, one other thing that NetBeans gives you that you may not have realized is I can type system dot, and it'll actually show me everything that's in the system class. And then the out object is our console. And then these are all the different methods that are available on the console class, or the output stream. And I just want to call the println function. And there's a bunch of different versions of println as well. If you don't pass anything in, then it just prints a blank line. Anyway, just showing you some of the benefits of using modern day tools to help you program. So I've made this change now, and I want to actually commit this change. So I save my file, I come up to the top of my project, I say git commit, and you'll notice that it went through. The only file that's changed was the city of Erin. I make sure that it's checked if it's not checked. If there's something that I don't want to commit yet, I can uncheck it and it won't go in. So I'm going to try typing here, see if I have any luck here. Yeah. If you have the stable version of NetBeans, it won't do this to you. But again, I'm doing this on one take, so just so you know. All right. Now you'll notice here I got another commit ID. When you're submitting your assignments, you only need to give me the last commit ID. You don't have to give me all of the commits that you worked on, just the last one. They're cumulative. So this one here that didn't have hello world in it is included in this one here, and the difference is I added hello world. So I'm ready to go. So now what I want to do is I actually want to push this to my repository. So if I right click again and say Git, and then I go to the remote menu option, and I want to push to upstream. Upstream will go to the default place, which is my origin that we set, which is GitHub. So if I push to upstream, then it's actually going to push my changes up. And then when it's done, it's done. I've closed my output window so I don't see the results. I think if I bring it back again, you'll see here pushing, and it's pushed my repository up to GitHub. Now, let's prove this to ourselves. Let's go back to our repo in our browser and just refresh the page. You'll see here now I've got my city of Aaron, and it's got my Java file, my Java project in it. And then it's got my design, and you can see here my cityofaaron.xml, which is my source code for my UML diagram in draw.io, and my requirements, which is a PDF file. And of course my gitignore and my license. And if we want to make sure that our city of Aaron is the one that has hello world in it, we can see here hello world. So that's all there is to it for getting GitHub and NetBeans to work together. You saw that I had a couple of problems. I knew what to do about them. If you run into things that you can't figure out, ask in the developer forum, ask a team member, ask a friend that knows computers. Someday soon you need to be that friend who knows computers so other people can ask you stuff. And then I'm going to record another video in just a minute of what to do for the team assignment using the setup that we've already got. So give you a break if you need a break, and then you can click on the next video and watch it. Hopefully that'll get you set for this week. Thanks.